Does your stomach sink a little every time you pull up to a drive-thru menu these days? You're not imagining it. You remember when a crisp $10 bill meant a feast, a calculated indulgence that actually felt like a win. Now, you hand over a 20, get back some loose change, and unwrap a burger that looks like it got bullied on the playground, holding fries that are lukewarm, salty disappointment. And you think, is it me? Am I just getting old and cynical? No, it's not you. You are being targeted by a decade-long boardroom strategy to bleed your wallet dry while shrinking your lunch. The thing you use every single day, well, maybe not every day, but the quick, reliable meal you depend on is frankly garbage. And it's garbage by design. The trust you placed in these iconic American brands has been weaponized against you. You need to know the truth about what happened to the American drive-thru, and you need to know now because we're all paying the price, both financially and nutritionally. If you stick with me through this entire investigation, you're going to walk away with power. You'll find out exactly which CEO made your burger worse and why they did it. We're going to look at the cold, hard data. I'm talking customer satisfaction scores from the American Customer Satisfaction Index, ACI, price tracking data, and even store closure filings for 13 of the biggest fast food chains in the USA. I will show you, with laser precision, the structural changes that are destroying your dining experience. From private equity buyouts to the rise of the franchise lottery. We'll break down the financial engineering that prioritizes shareholder value over your stomach. By the end, you'll possess a 3-point toolkit to instantly assess the true value of any fast food transaction. You will know more than 90% of shoppers, and you will never, ever be a passive victim of a clever ad campaign again. The absolute worst, most complete betrayal of your trust isn't who you think it is, and I'm going to reveal them. But first, you need to understand how the industry actually works. Think of your favorite fast food meal like a classic car. When you first fell in love with it, it was built solid, the engine was tuned perfectly, and the ride was reliable. Sure, it was affordable, but it didn't feel cheap. Every part served a purpose, and that purpose was to give you a great ride. The fast food industry used to operate on a similar principle: good food, good speed, good value. It was a simple formula, and it worked, building empires on burgers and fries. But then, the accountants, lawyers, and investment bankers took over. They didn't see a beloved car or a tasty meal, they saw an asset to be optimized. Their goal wasn't to maintain the ride, it was to extract every last cent of profit, so they started with value engineering. Imagine swapping the leather seats for sticky vinyl, downsizing the engine, and replacing steel body panels with flimsy plastic. In fast food, this means quietly changing the beef blend to include more fillers, switching from fresh chicken to frozen, and finding labor-saving technologies that inevitably result in a pre-made sandwich sitting under a heat lamp for 20 minutes. They're betting you won't notice the gradual degradation. Every cost-cutting measure is a mini-bet against your taste buds. Then came the financial tricks. Picture refinancing the car with a massive high-interest loan and using the money to throw a party for the investors, leaving the car, and you, to service that debt through higher prices and deferred maintenance. This is the private equity playbook. A firm buys a beloved chain, loads it with debt to finance the purchase, and pay out dividends to itself, and then forces the chain to cut corners and raise prices to pay off that loan. You're not paying for a better burger, you're paying for a financial engineer's bonus. Finally, they create the franchise lottery. Imagine you rent that car, but the company makes you pay for the insurance, gas, repairs, and even a licensing fee to use the keys, all while demanding you keep your prices low. It's unsustainable. This forces many franchise owners to cut their own corners just to survive, skimping on staffing, ignoring repairs, or letting food quality slide. The corporate parent doesn't care about the condition of the car, only that they get their monthly check. That's why one location is spotless and your meal is perfect, while the next one down the road has a broken ice cream machine, a trash-filled parking lot, and a soggy sandwich. Every meal becomes a gamble, and you, the consumer, are the one holding the losing ticket. Alright, now that you understand the blueprint of betrayal, let's start naming names. We've dug through the financial wreckage, the dismal consumer surveys, and the empty promises. The results? They aren't pretty. We're going to count down the bottom 8 chains that have objectively let you down. We're starting with the least shocking and descending into the utter depths of fast food dysfunction. At number 13, sitting squarely at the absolute bottom of our ranking, is Subway. There was a time, not so long ago, when Subway convinced the entire nation that a massive, foot-long sandwich was health food. You'd watch an employee and a visor assemble it, pile on the green stuff, and genuinely feel virtuous about your lunch choice. that Subway is dead. The brand you see today is a hollowed-out husk, and its downfall is the quintessential blueprint for this entire exposos. Watch the chain of cause and effect. The founder died, ownership drifted, and the menu got desperate. Franchises revolted. Then, the inevitable endgame for so many beloved brands, private equity. Roark Capital, an Atlanta firm managing $38 billion, bought Subway for a staggering $9.6 billion, ending 6 decades of family ownership. The kicker? They loaded billions in debt onto the company to make the deal work. And debt always means cost-cutting. Cost-cutting means worse stores, which leads to unhappy customers and, ultimately, mass closures. In 2024, Subway fell below 20,000 U.S. locations for the first time in 2 decades, shutting down more than 600 domestic stores. The sandwich itself is now a sad punchline, the $5 foot-long value proposition a distant, expensive memory. Food verdict: thin meat, watery vegetables, and bread that tastes like it's apologizing for existing. You're paying premium prices for gray. The healthy choice quietly became the expensive, hollow one. If you thought that was rough, brace yourself for a breakdown of the undisputed heavyweight of fast food price gouging. Number 12 is McDonald's. This one hurts because it defined childhood for so many of us. But while McDonald's didn't vanish from street corners like Subway, it did something worse. It stayed everywhere and just charged you more. A lot more. A recent study found that between 2014 and 2024, McDonald's roughly doubled its menu prices, a staggering 100% increase. That's more than triple the rate of inflation. A McDouble jumped from $1.19 to $3.9. The Big Mac you paid $2.39 for in 2000 is now pushing $6. And the result? McDonald's finished dead last in the 2025 American Customer Satisfaction Index among quick-service chains with a dismal score of 70. Low-income customers, the very people who built the brand, are walking away in double-digit numbers. McDonald's didn't ruin the food, they ruined the deal. A Big Mac tastes exactly the same, but it costs 40% more. The only way to get a fair price is to treat their app like a second job, hunting for deals. Skip anything at full menu price without a coupon, because that's the only honest transaction left there. The golden arches are officially tarnished by pure, unadulterated mathematical greed. If you already feel like checking your own kitchen counter and thinking, "What have I been eating?" subscribe. Because, trust me, it gets even harsher from here. At number 11, Burger King built an empire on one promise: flame grilled your way. While McDonald's is at least trying value deals to claw people back, Burger King just let its empire sit in maintenance mode. The problem is ownership and plain old neglect. BK is owned by Restaurant Brands International, RBI, a conglomerate that treats it as just one asset in a massive portfolio. The stores went years without a remodel. Drive-thrus got excruciatingly slow, and the math caught up with them. In 2025, a major franchise operator filed for bankruptcy, leading to closures. Their own turnaround plan is literally called Reclaim the Flame. Think about that for a second. You don't reclaim a flame that's still burning. The Whopper itself is genuinely good. Flame-grilled beef is a real difference maker. But a great burger handed to you in a tired, decaying store after a 10-minute wait stops feeling great. The Whopper survived. Its surroundings didn't. Number 10 is Arby's, the chain that spent decades telling you, via the deepest voice in advertising, that we have the meats. And they did, for a long time. But the meats cannot save you from the private equity spreadsheet. Arby's is trapped in the same Roark Capital-owned Inspire Brands portfolio, where a brand is just a stream of royalties to be optimized. This ownership story ends the exact same way: closure and retreat. Arby's quietly shuttered dozens of locations as foot traffic softened. There's no viral scandal, just a slow corporate retreat. The beef and cheddar and curly fries are legitimately distinctive. Nothing else in fast food tastes like it. But prices have crept up to the point where a novelty roast beef sandwich is competing with real restaurant meals, and it doesn't always win. They still have the meats. They're just running out of stores to sell them in. Number 9 is KFC. For generations, fried chicken was KFC. Not anymore. The cause is competition, plain and simple. While KFC blinked, rivals like Popeyes, Raising Cane's, and Wingstop spent the decade getting sharper. KFC drifted. In the HCSI satisfaction rankings, KFC saw one of the steepest drops, 5% to a score of 77, as rival chicken chains gained on it. Locations have been closing as sales drop. When your entire food category is booming and you are shrinking, the problem is you. The original recipe still has that 11 herbs and spices magic when it's fresh, but consistency is a nightmare. In a world with better options, sometimes great just isn't enough. Speaking of consistency nightmares, number 8 is Popeyes. Remember 2019? Popeyes dropped a chicken sandwich that literally broke the internet. For one glorious moment, Popeyes was the most exciting thing in fast food. The sandwich was real, and it was spectacular, but the momentum wasn't. And notice the pattern again. Same parent company as Burger King, RBI. Same playbook, same result. After the hype faded, the operational cracks showed: eternal wait times, inconsistent service, and sales that slipped into the negative. They also aggressively hiked prices, with a Finance Buzz report placing Popeyes among the worst offenders of the decade. The gap between the product and the experience is a chasm. The chicken can be elite, but getting it can be a 20-minute ordeal. The best sandwich in fast food, served by the most patient customers in fast food, number 7, Taco Bell, figured out something the others didn't. Lean into the late night, fourth meal chaos. A menu that reinvents the same 5 ingredients into 40 things. For a long time, it was the king of cheap. The cheap part is under massive pressure now, with data showing Taco Bell raised prices around 81% from 2014 to 2024. The cheesy gordita crunch doubled, but Taco Bell is this high because it fought back. Unlike the burger giants who abandoned the low-income customer and paid for it, Taco Bell kept fighting for value, inventing menus and combo deals. It still pulls steady satisfaction relative to McDonald's and Burger King. Smartly ordered, Taco Bell is still one of the more satisfying cheap meals. Best order: anything off the current value menu, stacked, finally, at number 6, Wendy's. They spent decades with one defiant promise: fresh, never frozen beef square patties. The competition used frozen pucks. Wendy's didn't. That promise is still real, but the business is wobbling. Wendy's launched a turnaround plan called Project Fresh and announced it would close up to 350 underperforming locations. The social media sass couldn't hide the numbers. The closures themselves are the evidence. This rank is about flavor, not finance. The core product is genuinely better. Fresh beef tastes like fresh beef. The Dave single is a real burger. But the struggle is business, not flavor. The food, never frozen. The sales, never warming up. The pattern is undeniable. Subway, McDonald's, Burger King, Arby's, KFC, Popeyes, almost none of them are owned by the families that built them anymore. The prices didn't just rise, they detonated. 5 chains, McDonald's, Popeyes, Taco Bell, Chipotle, and Jimmy John's, raised prices at more than double the rate of inflation. This isn't higher costs. This is profit margin flowing straight out of the restaurant and away from you. This is the private equity playbook in action. Cut costs, add debt, and optimize the cash flow. You're not the customer being served. You're the asset being optimized. BOD ownership math at the top always equals a miserable meal for you. But what does it look like when a company chooses the other path? What does fast food look like when you aren't the primary financial instrument? You're about to find out. And now the reason you watched all the way to this point. We've dissected the corporate rot, exposed the private equity vultures, and analyzed the lukewarm, expensive tragedy that defines the bottom of the drive-thru barrel. It's easy to get cynical, to believe that quality is a relic of the past, that value is a marketing term for just slightly less terrible. But the data also revealed something remarkable: an elite group of winners. The chains at the top of this list face the exact same inflation, the same labor costs, and the same global supply chain nightmares as McDonald's and Subway. Nothing was easier for them. They simply, defiantly made different decisions. And you can taste every single one of those decisions. This is what it looks like when a company chooses to feed you instead of financializing your dinner. Leading off our top 5 at number 5 is Five Guys. You've seen the red and white tiled walls, the open kitchen, the employees smashing fresh patties on the griddle. What's right here is an absolute, uncompromising commitment to freshness. This isn't value engineering. This is food engineering. We're talking fresh, never frozen beef, hand-formed patties, and actual potatoes, cut by hand and fried to order in peanut oil. The paper bag soaked through with a free extra scoop of fries isn't a mistake. It's a statement of excess and value. They didn't focus group the menu to death or try to be everything to everyone. They do one thing: the high-end, fresh burger. Now, an honest assessment: the one knock on Five Guys, and the only reason it's not higher, is the price. Customer satisfaction even took a slight hit in 2025 as people pushed back on the cost of a Five Guys run, which can easily rival a sit-down restaurant meal. If you are looking to save money, this is not the place. But if you want to pay for real food, you are in the right spot. Nothing is faked, frozen, or focus grouped. A little cheeseburger and a regular fry, which feeds 2, trust me, and you are looking at a receipt that finally makes sense. No, you aren't saving money. But for once, you are getting exactly what you paid for. Wait until you see how the regional contenders pass the logic tests that the massive chains failed. If you're not from the Midwest, Number 4 might be a stranger to you, but if you are, you're already cheering. Number 4 is Culver's. This regional powerhouse is the chain people drive miles out of their way for, and the data explains why. Fresh, never frozen beef is standard, pressed into what they call butter burgers, which are cooked to order. They use real Wisconsin cheese, and their frozen custard is made fresh, in-house, every single day. The commitment to its Midwestern roots isn't just marketing, it's a standard of identity. In the 2025 ACSI data, Culver's was strong enough in its region to go toe-to-toe with the perennial industry leader. The Butterburger is a genuinely great classic fast food burger. The cheese curds are an event in themselves, and that custard alone is worth the trip. The rarest trick in this entire business is growing past 1,000 locations without diluting the product, and Culver's pulled it off. Quietly and right in the heartland, somebody has been doing it right the whole time. Best order: Butterburger cheese, real cheese curds, and a fresh custard of the day. Seriously, just go. Number 3 took the concept of a focused menu and turned it into a cultural phenomenon. At Raising Cane's, they looked at a multi-page fast food menu and just said, no. They decided to sell chicken fingers, that's it. Fingers, crinkle-cut fries, Texas toast, coleslaw, and a sauce that people would actually fight you for. What is right here is an absolute obsession with focus. One thing is done relentlessly well with fresh, never frozen chicken. No bloated menu, no rotating limited-time disasters to hide a weak core product. This discipline is the diametric opposite of the strategy used by the chains at the bottom of this list, and you can see the result in the line of cars wrapped around the building. While legacy chicken chains like KFC are retreating and closing stores, Cane's is a rapid growth engine, gaining ground on everyone, including the heavyweights. The food verdict: the chicken is hot, fresh, and consistent. The toast is buttery perfection. They didn't add more items, they just refused to do anything badly. Best order: the box combo with extra cane sauce. Always extra sauce. There's nothing to skip. That is the magic. And then, there's number 2, the chain that turned customer service into a spiritual experience and a chicken sandwich into a way of life. For 11 straight years, Chick-fil-A has finished number 1 among all fast food chains in the HECSI. Their score of 83 is not just good, it's a full 13 points clear of last-place McDonald's. Think about the operational gap that represents. 11 years at the top. The evidence isn't a graph, it's the parking lot. Chick-fil-A runs 2 lanes of drive-thru traffic faster and with more genuine friendliness than rivals can manage one. And they do it while voluntarily closing every single Sunday, sacrificing a seventh of their earning potential because it fits their identity. The original sandwich is dialed in perfection, and the waffle fries are a top-tier side. A consumer review on their local Yelp often reads like a testimonial. The service is so consistently good it feels suspicious. The only real knock is that prices have crept up, and it's expensive, and yeah, that Sunday closure. But it's not the cheapest. It's just the one that never lets you down. It's dialed in, finally, number 1. The chain that did the impossible. The one that watched everyone else raise prices, cut quality, sell to private equity, chase infinite growth, and just didn't. Our number 1, the absolute best, is In-N-Out Burger. This chain is the anti-Subway. In-N-Out wins because it beat every single toxic force that wrecked the bottom of this list. It is still owned by the founding family, the Snyders. No private equity, no shareholders demanding infinite growth, no debt-loaded buyout terms to service with a cheaper patty. They don't even franchise, which means no franchise lottery. Every single one of their 400-plus locations is run the company's way, and that way is defined by an absolute refusal to change. When McDonald's was doubling its prices, a basic In-N-Out hamburger still started under $3. Now look at the food. They have no freezers, no microwaves, and no heat lamps. The beef is fresh, 100% ground chuck. The fries are cut from real potatoes, in front of your face, and the shakes use actual ice cream. The menu has barely changed in decades because it never needed to. The staff is paid well above industry average, which is why the service feels human, not like a chore. The complaints? In late 2025, they switched the shape of their fry container, and fans revolted over portions and grease. Think about that. When your biggest scandal is the packaging of a potato, you are operating on a whole different level. In-N-Out didn't win because it's gourmet. It won because while an entire industry decided you were a cash flow to be optimized, In-N-Out kept treating you like a customer to be fed. Everybody else changed. In-N-Out remembered what fast food was supposed to be. This is what we lost everywhere else. Best order: a double animal style fries, and a real chocolate shake. This is the one. And here we are, at the end of the line. The data has been analyzed, the boardroom secrets are out, and the winners have been crowned. We've traced a decades-long betrayal, a deliberate decision by powerful corporations to treat your meal as a purely financial instrument. But you're not a passive statistic, and your hunger isn't just corporate cash flow. The chains at the top of this list are living proof that it's still possible to get it right. They protect the food, respect the customer, and prove that quality and consistency can be a sustainable business model. The decline wasn't bad luck, it was a deliberate strategy. And you now have the power to dismantle that strategy, one meal at a time. Next time you are staring at a drive-thru menu board, don't just see a logo, see the history of decisions that led to that moment. You need a simple toolkit, a 3-step fast food reality check, to make sure you're never the victim of a bad ownership lottery again. This was never really about the burgers, it's about incentives. And your only true power is where you decide to spend the next $20 in your pocket. Judge the value, not the logo. Forget the clever ads and the childhood nostalgia. Pull out your phone and use the combo meal test. Take the price of the fast food combo you're about to order and compare it to a freshly cooked meal at a local diner or a fast casual spot down the street. If they cost nearly the same, the value proposition is gone. You are paying sit-down restaurant prices for pre-made, assembly line food. If you are going to spend real money, demand real food, like a little cheeseburger at Five Guys or a freshly made Butterburger at Culver's. Reward that consistency. The chain that is exactly the same every visit, like Raising Cane's or In-N-Out, has already told you, with every perfect chicken finger and fresh, never-frozen bun, that they respect you. Don't waste your time gambling on a franchise lottery at a struggling chain. The data proves that McDonald's finishing last for years isn't a bad day. It's a structural pattern. Believe the data, not the advertising. Finally, ask one simple, essential question about ownership. Who actually benefits when I spend this money? Is this chain still run by people focused on the food, like the Snyder family at In-N-Out or the independent Midwestern franchisees of Culver's? Or has it become a financial asset owned by an investment firm where cost-cutting and debt service are the main products? Private equity didn't make the sandwich better. It just made your receipt more efficient. Vote with your wallet. The corporations at the bottom are counting on your apathy, betting that you'll keep paying more for less, distracted by the ghosts of a happy childhood meal that no longer exists. They expect you to accept gray meat and watery vegetables because it's fast food. Prove them wrong. Take your business to the chains that refuse to sell out and compromise. Reward the operators who remember what fast food is supposed to be, a place where you get fed, not managed. Every dollar you shift is a clear, definitive message that you demand more than lukewarm leftovers for $20. Thank you for watching this investigation. You are no longer just a consumer. You are an ally who has seen the truth behind the system. Please share this video with a friend who always complains about drive-thru prices, because they need to understand the systemic forces at work too. I want to hear from you in the comments. Which of these brands is sitting on your counter right now? And which one are you ready to abandon forever? And if you are ready to see this exact same cost-cutting as quality logic applied to your neighborhood grocery store, watch our investigation into the dark side of private label brands right here. This was never about the burgers. This was always about taking back your power. Alright, let's start naming names and breaking down the specific brands that have turned your dinner into a corporate spreadsheet optimization strategy. We are going to count down from the least shocking to the absolute apex of fast food betrayal, pulling back the curtain on exactly how these empires crumbled from within. We are looking at the specific corporate decisions, the exact laboratory and customer data, and the real-world experiences that prove you are being taken for a ride every time you pull up to the speaker box. At number 13, sitting at the absolute rock bottom of consumer trust is Subway. There was a time when Subway managed to convince the entire United States that eating a massive foot-long log of bread was basically the equivalent of going to a health spa. You would walk in, watch an employee in a visor assemble your sandwich right in front of your face, pile on the lettuce and tomatoes, and somehow walk out feeling incredibly virtuous about your lifestyle choices. That Subway is ancient history. The brand we see today is a ghost of its former self, and its decline serves as the perfect structural blueprint for every single corporate failure on this list. Look at the exact chain of cause and effect. The original founder passed away, corporate ownership drifted without a clear vision, the menu became an act of pure desperation, and individual franchise owners started open revolts against corporate mandates. Then came the final blow. A massive private equity firm bought Subway for a staggering $9.6 billion, ending 6 decades of family control. To make that astronomical math work, the firm loaded billions of dollars of new debt directly onto the company's back. In the corporate world, massive debt means immediate, aggressive cost-cutting. Cost-cutting translates directly to poorly maintained stores, understaffed counters, and lower-quality ingredients. That operational rot trickles down to the consumer, leading to a massive drop in foot traffic and inevitable store closures. Subway shut down more than 600 domestic locations in a single year, falling below 20,000 U.S. stores for the first time in 2 decades. The footlong itself became a sad, cultural punchline after years of consumer lawsuits and public complaints proved the bread consistently came up short of 12 inches. According to independent food analysts, the sandwich isn't even offensive anymore. It's just profoundly sad. We are talking paper-thin deli meat, watery vegetables that look like they've given up on life, and a rubbery bread texture that feels like a physical apology for your lunch choice. The legendary $5 footlong value that built the entire brand is long dead, replaced by a hollow, expensive substitute that treats your stomach like a secondary concern. Let's keep moving up this list of financial engineering, because the next giant didn't disappear from our streets, it just doubled down on your wallet. Number 12 is McDonald's. This one hits the hardest because the golden arches used to feel like a genuine reward. Unlike Subway, McDonald's didn't retreat from American street corners. It did the exact opposite. It maintained its omnipresent footprint, but shifted its entire strategy towards seeing exactly how much money it could extract from your pocket before you finally walked away. The food didn't fundamentally change, the math did. A comprehensive multi-year tracking study discovered that McDonald's roughly doubled its menu prices over a 10-year period, representing a 100% price hike. That is more than triple the official rate of inflation over that exact same window, making it the absolute worst price offender of any major quick-service chain analyzed in the country. The Humble McChicken went from a reliable $1 bill staple to nearly $3 in many markets. The McDouble skyrocketed, and the flagship Big Mac climbed closer and closer to the $6 mark. The real-world consequence of this aggressive price gouging is laid bare in the American Customer Satisfaction Index, where McDonald's finished dead last among all major quick-service brands with a dismal score of 70. Corporate executives were even forced to admit in investor calls that lower-income consumers, the foundational customer base that built the company's global empire, were actively walking away from the drive-thru in massive, double-digit percentages. The Big Mac isn't inherently terrible, but it tastes identical to how it did a decade ago while costing 40% more. They didn't ruin the recipe, they ruined the fundamental American deal. If you are looking at your own bank statements right now and realizing just how much money you've thrown into these corporate black holes, take a second to hit that subscribe button. It gets significantly worse from here, and you need the data to protect your wallet. Coming in at number 11 is Burger King. The home of the Whopper built its entire legacy on a single defiant promise: flame-grilled, have it your way. But while its chief competitor at least attempted to launch aggressive app deals to claw frustrated consumers back to the counter, Burger King largely allowed its massive domestic empire to sit in a state of stagnant maintenance mode. The root cause here is a textbook case of corporate neglect. Burger King is managed by a massive multi-brand conglomerate that views the legendary chain as just one single line item in a vast portfolio of global assets. As a result, hundreds of local stores went over a decade without a single physical renovation or equipment upgrade. Drive-thru lanes became agonizingly slow, and technology lagged behind the rest of the industry. The predictable economic fallout arrived right on schedule. One of the nation's absolute largest Burger King franchise operators filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, triggering a massive wave of immediate store closures spanning across multiple states. You can see the desperation in the company's recent turnaround strategy, which they literally named Reclaim the Flame. Think about that phrase for a single second. You do not spend tens of millions of dollars trying to reclaim a flame that is actually still burning. The irony is that the classic Whopper burger is still a genuinely good piece of fast food engineering. That flame-grilled beef provides a real, noticeable point of sensory difference. But a perfectly decent burger handed to you in a tired, decaying restaurant by an overworked staff after an agonizing 12-minute wait stops feeling like a convenience. The Whopper survived the corporate decay, but the entire consumer experience surrounding it did not. Number 10 on our list of betrayal brings us to Arby's. This is the chain that spent millions of dollars hiring the deepest, most authoritative voice in voiceover history to repeatedly bellow into your television screen that we have the meats. And to give credit where it is due, they actually did. No other mainstream drive-thru in the United States was stacking thin-sliced roast beef high on a sesame seed bun quite like them. But a mountain of roast beef cannot protect a fast food chain from the cold, unfeeling realities of a corporate spreadsheet. Just like Subway, Arby's exists inside a massive private equity ecosystem managed by Inspire Brands, where a historic food concept is viewed primarily as a reliable stream of franchise royalties to be continuously squeezed and optimized for investor returns. And just like its corporate siblings, that specific ownership structure ends with the exact same real-world result: a quiet, systematic retreat from local communities. Arby's quietly closed dozens of domestic locations across the United States as overall foot traffic began to soften nationwide. There was no massive, viral food safety scandal or explosive public relations disaster here. It is simply a slow, steady shrinking of the brand's physical footprint, store by individual store. In an economic environment where even robust food chains are struggling to keep their heads above water, Arby's classic beef and cheddar sandwiches and seasoned curly fries remain a highly distinctive, legitimately craveable product that you cannot easily replicate anywhere else in the fast food space. However, standard menu prices have crept up so aggressively that a basic roast beef combo now actively competes with the pricing of real, sit-down casual dining restaurants, and when put head-to-head against a freshly cooked meal, the fast food spreadsheet logic fails to hold up. They definitely still have the meats, but they are rapidly running out of physical real estate to sell them to you. Number 9 takes us to the world of fried chicken with KFC. There was an era in American history where the Colonel absolutely owned the concept of fast food fried chicken. For an entire generation of consumers, the word chicken and the letters KFC were virtually interchangeable. That dominance has completely vanished, and the primary catalyst is pure corporate complacency in the face of hyper-aggressive competition. While the leadership team at KFC blinked and rested on their historical laurels, modern rivals like Popeyes, Raising Cane's, and Wingstop spent the last 10 years sharpening their operational models, upgrading their supply chains, and dominating pop culture. KFC simply drifted out of relevance. The hard data reflects this exact cultural slide. In the Comprehensive Customer Satisfaction Index, KFC's consumer score plummeted by 5% down to a weak 77. Marking one of the single sharpest declines in the entire food service survey as nimble rivals systematically stripped away its market share. Domestic same-store sales dropped by 5% in a single financial quarter, and locations have been quietly shuttering across the country. The evidence is plain as day. When an entire food category is experiencing an unprecedented national boom and your specific brand is actively shrinking, the problem isn't the market. The problem is you. The legendary original recipe chicken still possesses that undeniable 11 herbs and spices magic when you manage to catch a batch that is fresh out of the fryer. The fatal flaw here is a total lack of operational consistency. One suburban location will nail the execution perfectly, while the next franchise location down the highway hands you a box of dry, lukewarm, grease-soaked disappointment. In a modern landscape populated by laser-focused chicken concepts, an inconsistent legacy giant will lose every single time. The recipe remains a corporate secret, but a compelling reason for you to spend your hard-earned money. There is no longer a mystery. It simply doesn't exist. Number 8 lands us directly on Popeyes. In the year 2019, Popeyes dropped a single fried chicken sandwich that completely broke the internet, caused actual physical altercations in parking lots, sold out entirely across the United States, and kicked off the legendary fast food chicken wars. For a brief, shining moment in time, Popeyes was indisputably the most culturally relevant and exciting brand in the entire fast food landscape. The quality of that specific sandwich was an undeniable reality, but the corporate momentum was entirely temporary. Look closely at the corporate pattern here. Popeyes is operated by the exact same massive parent conglomerate that owns Burger King. It is the exact same corporate playbook, yielding the exact same disappointing long-term result. Once the massive internet hype and viral social media marketing faded away, the fundamental operational cracks in the franchise system began to show. Consumers were met with legendary wait times, famously hostile or indifferent customer service, and domestic same-store sales numbers that slid directly into negative territory. To make matters worse, price tracking data placed Popeyes among the absolute worst menu price hikers of the decade, climbing roughly 86%. The chasm between an elite piece of fried chicken and the agonizing 20-minute operational ordeal required to actually obtain it from a drive-thru window became completely unsustainable for the average consumer. it remains the absolute best fried chicken sandwich in America, served to you by the most profoundly exhausted and patient customer base in the history of fast food. Number 7 on our countdown of corporate value destruction is Taco Bell. Taco Bell managed to survive the initial wave of consumer backlash by leaning completely into late-night culinary chaos, catering directly to weird midnight cravings with a menu that brilliantly engineers the exact same 5 basic ingredients into 40 entirely different product names. For decades, it was the undisputed, universal king of cheap American food survival. But that legendary value proposition is currently under immense structural pressure. Historical tracking data reveals that Taco Bell aggressively hiked its overall menu prices by roughly 81% over a 10-year window, representing the third worst price inflation among every single major fast food chain studied in the country. The iconic cheesy gordita crunch virtually doubled in price, and the legendary True Dollar menu has been systematically erased from the menu boards. The key reason Taco Bell isn't sitting significantly lower on this list of shame is a direct comparison of corporate strategy. Unlike the massive burger giants who completely abandoned the lower-income consumer and immediately paid a heavy price in traffic, Taco Bell's corporate leadership actively kept fighting to maintain a baseline of value, continuously reinventing their cravings menace and engineered combo boxes to keep the entry price point accessible. It is absolutely not gourmet food, and nobody is pretending it is healthy, but a calculated, app-enabled run to Taco Bell remains one of the few ways to walk away with a full stomach for a semi-reasonable amount of cash. And that brings us to number 6, Wendy's. Wendy's spent nearly half a century building its entire brand identity on a single defiant anti-competitor promise: fresh, never-frozen North American beef shaped into square patties. While the rest of the corporate fast food establishment relied on frozen preformed pucks, that core product promise remains entirely real to this day. However, the corporate machinery surrounding that fresh beef is severely wobbling, and the financial data presents a very stark contrast. In a fiscal year where legacy competitors like McDonald's and Burger King still manage to eke out small positive numbers in overall U.S. sales, Wendy's domestic sales dropped by over 5%. The corporate response was the immediate launch of an emergency turnaround strategy dubbed Project Fresh, accompanied by the staggering announcement that the chain would permanently close between 290 and 350 underperforming domestic restaurant locations. The highly calculated, sarcastic social media wit delivered by their corporate account could no longer paper over the harsh economic realities of the physical stores. The massive wave of nationwide closures is the ultimate proof of the problem. A brand shutting down hundreds of physical locations in the exact same economic climate where its direct rivals are growing has a fundamental structural crisis on its hands. The great tragedy here is that the core food product is genuinely superior to the rest of the corporate burger landscape. Fresh ground beef actually tastes like real beef. The Dave's Single is a legitimately excellent fast food cheeseburger. Their fries were measurably upgraded, and the chocolate frosty remains a completely untouchable dessert icon. The daily struggle at Wendy's is an entirely corporate and operational breakdown, not a failure of culinary flavor. The beef remains completely unfrozen, but their national sales numbers are refusing to warm up. And now, what it was worth watching all the way through for. We have waded through the corporate wreckage of private equity debt, survived the bleak landscape of frozen hockey pucks, and pulled back the curtain on the multi-billion-dollar empires that treat your dinner like a high-yield financial asset. It is incredibly easy to walk away from that data, believing that the entire American food industry has completely given up on you, that value is an extinct concept, and that every drive-thru window is just a trap designed to extract your hard-earned cash for a lukewarm, downsized disappointment. But our investigation unearthed a completely different story at the top of the rankings. The brands we are about to break down face the exact same macroeconomic pressures, the same rising labor costs, and the same supply chain realities as the bottom-tier chains. They didn't have a secret loophole or an easier path. They simply looked at the spreadsheet and chose to prioritize the integrity of the food over the short-term demands of corporate shareholders. This is your reward for sticking around, a definitive guide to the elite operations that are still doing things right. Starting our countdown of the true champions at number 5 is Five Guys. You already know the look, the sound, and the distinct aroma of this place. The red and white tiled walls, the open concept kitchen where you can watch the entire crew operating in perfect synchronization, and the brown paper bag that is inevitably soaked through with grease before you even make it back to your car. What earned this brand its position on the list is a relentless, vocal commitment to culinary execution. There are no corporate freezers hidden in the back of a Five Guys location. Every single burger patty is formed by hand from fresh, never frozen ground beef, and every fry is sliced directly from real potatoes before being dropped into pure peanut oil. They don't try to innovate with bizarre limited-time menu items or cheap breakfast gimmicks. They do one thing with absolute focus. When you order a burger, you watch them press it onto a scorching flat-top grill in real time, charring the edges to lock in the moisture. Now, let's be entirely honest with our praise. Five Guys has an undeniable downside, and it is the exact reason it isn't sitting at the absolute top of this list. It is expensive. In recent customer satisfaction surveys, the brand even experienced a minor dip as everyday consumers began to push back against the sheer cost of a standard meal. A quick run to Five Guys can easily set you back the same amount of cash as a sit-down casual dining experience with a server. If your primary goal is to save a buck, this is not your destination. But if you are willing to analyze the value based on what you are actually putting into your body, the math shifts. Nothing about a Five Guys burger is faked, pre-cooked, or focus grouped to death by corporate accountants. The standard order is actually 2 patties, so a smart diner orders the little cheeseburger, piles on the massive list of completely free toppings, and splits a regular order of fries with a friend because the kitchen staff always throws an extra mountain of loose fries into the bottom of the bag anyway. You aren't saving money here, but for once, the quality matches the premium receipt. If you thought a national burger brand couldn't scale up without losing its soul, wait until you look at how a regional powerhouse completely dominates the American heartland. Number 4 on our list is Culver's. If you live outside the Midwest, you might look at their blue and white sign and wonder what the fuss is about. But if you live anywhere near their home turf, you already know this is the place people will actively drive past 3 other national chains to get to. Culver's built its entire empire on regional pride and a total refusal to compromise on the basic tenets of hospitality and ingredient sourcing. We are talking fresh, never frozen Midwest beef pressed onto a grill until the edges are crispy, served on a lightly buttered, toasted bun, the iconic Butterburger. They pair this with authentic Wisconsin cheddar cheese curds and a rich premium frozen custard that is churned fresh right inside the restaurant throughout the day. In the latest customer satisfaction data, Culver's demonstrated enough regional loyalty and operational strength to go head-to-head with the absolute biggest names in the entire quick service industry. The evidence is right there in their financial trajectory. They managed to scale past 1,000 domestic locations without diluting the core product, which is arguably the single rarest trick to pull off in the entire history of modern fast food. The Butterburger is a triumph of drive-thru engineering, the cheese curds are a genuine event, and the custard is rich enough to justify the trip alone. Their quiet superpower is operational consistency. Every single location feels like it is being managed by the actual owner. Best order, the double Butterburger with cheese, an order of real Wisconsin cheese curds, and whatever the fresh flavor of the day is for the custard. Number 3 took the concept of a simplified, focused menu and turned it into an absolute masterclass in supply chain execution. Raising Cane's looked at the multi-page, chaotic menus of legacy fast food and decided to do the exact opposite. They sell chicken fingers. That is the entire premise. Fingers, crinkle-cut fries, Texas toast, coleslaw, and a signature dipping sauce that people would quite literally fight you for in a parking lot. What is right here is an absolute obsession with doing one single thing flawlessly. They use fresh, never frozen chicken breast tenderloins, marinate them, hand batter them, and fry them to order. There are no pre-cooked strips drying out under a heat lamp, no complicated breakfast menus, and no rotating seasonal distractions to hide a weak core product. While legacy chicken concepts are actively shrinking their physical footprints and watching sales plummet, Cane's has been one of the fastest growing concepts in the United States, systematically taking market share from everyone in their path. The food is blazing hot, incredibly juicy, and entirely consistent from one coast to the other. The Texas toast is buttery and thick, and the sauce genuinely earns every ounce of internet hype it receives. The only thing you sacrifice when you pull into a Cane's lane is variety, and honestly, that is the entire point. They didn't try to add more items to the board, they just refused to do a single thing badly. Best order, the box combo, but you swap out the coleslaw for an extra piece of Texas toast, and you always buy an extra tub of Cane's sauce. Number 2 is the undisputed heavyweight champion of operational consistency and customer satisfaction. Chick-fil-A is the brand that successfully transformed a simple chicken breast on a bun into a cultural powerhouse and turned the phrase, "my pleasure," into an absolute masterclass in customer service flex that no other corporate entity can touch. In the latest Customer Satisfaction Index, Chick-fil-A secured the #1 spot among all national quick service chains for the 11th consecutive year, pulling down an incredible score of 83. That puts them a staggering 13 points ahead of last place McDonald's. Think about the massive operational gulf that number represents over more than a decade of scrutiny. The proof isn't found on a corporate slide, it is found in the physical drive-thru lane. Chick-fil-A routinely operates a dual-lane drive-thru system that shuffles 50 cars through the line with a smile faster than their legacy competitors can move a single vehicle past the window. And they achieve this level of financial dominance while voluntarily locking their front doors and turning off their fryers every single Sunday, willingly walking away from a full seventh of the calendar year because it aligns with their core corporate identity. The original peanut oil fried chicken sandwich is a masterpiece of balance. The waffle fries are a top-tier side dish, and the customer service is so relentlessly polite it borders on looking like a coordinated psychological operation. The only real objective criticism is that prices have steadily climbed over the last few years, making it a premium fast food option, and you can't satisfy a craving for it on a weekend road trip on a Sunday. It is not the absolute cheapest box of food on the highway, but it is the single most reliable operation in America, and that brings us to #1. The absolute pinnacle of what the drive-thru was always intended to be. The brand that watched the entire fast food establishment sell out to private equity, load up on debt, shrink the portion sizes, and hike the prices, and simply chose to stand its ground. Our #1 is In-N-Out Burger. In-N-Out is the definitive answer to every single corporate betrayal we exposed in the first half of this investigation. Remember the toxic financial forces that destroyed the value at the bottom of the list? Prices outrunning inflation, frozen shortcuts, and the absolute chaos of the franchise lottery? In-N-Out systematically dismantled all four. The brand is still completely owned and operated by the founding Snyder family. There are no private equity overlords demanding immediate returns, no public shareholders forcing cost-cutting measures, and no debt-heavy buyout agreements to service. They refuse to franchise any locations, meaning there is zero franchise lottery. Every single store is a corporate-owned operation run exactly the same way, with the exact same high standards. And here is the ultimate kicker that should make every other executive on this list blush. They stayed cheap. While McDonald's was busy doubling the price of a basic double cheeseburger, a fresh, made-to-order In-N-Out burger still starts at a price point that undercuts the frozen pucks of the competition by massive margins. Walk up to the counter and look through the glass. They have zero freezers, zero microwaves, and zero heat lamps on the premises. The beef is fresh, 100% ground chuck delivered directly from their own regional distribution hubs. The fries are sliced from whole, raw potatoes right in front of your eyes before hitting the oil, and the milkshakes are spun from real ice cream. The menu has remained virtually identical for decades because they never needed a marketing gimmick to trick you into the store. Why do consumers love it with a ferocity that borders on obsession? Because it is the single rarest entity in modern American commerce, a place where the quality remained static or went up while the consumer value proposition held firm. You are getting fresh ground beef on a toasted sponge dough bun with hand-leafed lettuce for less cash than chains that charge you double for pre-frozen meat. The classic double-double is, dollar for dollar, one of the absolute finest burgers in the United States at any price bracket. Even their store employees are compensated well above the standard industry average, which is precisely why the staff actually sounds human instead of treating your order like a miserable chore. Is the operation completely flawless? No. In late 2025, the brand updated its iconic fry packaging from the historic paper cup to a flat paper bag, and the fan base immediately revolted on social media over perceived grease transfer and altered portion sizes, ultimate proof that consumers hold In-N-Out to an incredibly high standard precisely because the brand has earned that level of respect. The fries have always been a polarizing topic for fast food purists because they are fresh cut without the chemical par frying process used by mega chains. But notice what the modern complaints are actually about: the shape of a paper container, not corporate price gouging, not selling out to a Wall Street investment firm, and not closing down hundreds of neighborhood locations. When your biggest operational scandal is a piece of cardboard packaging, you are doing something that the rest of the American food landscape completely forgot how to do decades ago. In-N-Out didn't win this investigation because they are fancy or gourmet. They won because while an entire industry decided you were just a cash flow asset to be optimized on a spreadsheet, In-N-Out kept treating you like a human being who deserved a good meal for a fair price. Everyone else changed. In-N-Out simply remembered who they were. Best order, a double ordered animal style, an order of fries animal style, and a real chocolate shake. And here we are, standing at the final crossroads of this investigation. The historical data has been completely unspooled, the financial engineering of the boardroom elite has been laid bare, and the line between the corporations trying to bleed your wallet and the operations trying to feed your family has been permanently drawn. It is incredibly easy to walk away from a deep dive like this feeling completely cynical, like a helpless victim of a macroeconomic machine that is designed to systematically downgrade your quality of life while charging you double for the privilege. But you are not helpless. Your hunger is not just an asset class to be optimized on a Wall Street spreadsheet, and the $20 bill sitting inside your wallet is actually a direct vote on how the food industry should behave. The elite operations sitting at the top of our ranking, the Chick-fil-A's, the Culvers, the In-N-Outs, are living, breathing proof that it is still entirely possible to build a massive, thriving food business in the United States without selling out your core principles or treating your customers like an ATM. The widespread decline of the American drive-thru wasn't some unavoidable act of God or an unexplainable byproduct of inflation. It was a series of deliberate, conscious choices made by executives who wagered that you wouldn't notice the degradation, and you have the absolute power to prove them completely wrong, starting today. To make sure you never walk into a predatory corporate value trap again, you need to arm yourself with a concrete, highly practical set of rules for navigating the modern food landscape. This is the exact toolkit you can deploy the next time you are driving down a commercial strip, staring at a wall of neon signs, trying to decide where to buy lunch. Rule number 1. Execute the combo meal test without exception. Before you pull your car into any drive-thru lane, take a hard look at the total sticker price of the combo meal you are about to order and mentally compare that number to the actual cost of a freshly prepared meal at your local neighborhood diner, an independent sandwich shop, or a fast casual spot down the street. If a highly mechanized fast food combo built on pre-frozen ingredients is tracking at nearly the exact same price point as a meal cooked to order by a real chef using fresh local ingredients, the economic value proposition of the drive-thru has completely evaporated. You are willingly paying premium sit-down restaurant prices for assembly line convenience, and that is a bad trade every single time. Rule number 2. Look for structural menu simplicity as an absolute green light. A fast food menu that focuses intensely on doing just one or two things flawlessly, like Raising Cane's sticking exclusively to chicken tenders or In-N-Out refusing to expand beyond basic burgers and fries, is a massive indicator that the chain prioritizes operational excellence and ingredient freshness over marketing gimmicks. Conversely, a chaotic, bloated menu board packed with random breakfast items, rotating limited-time offers, and desperate cross-promotions is a massive red flag that the brand is actively struggling to hide a fundamental decline in the quality of its core products. Rule number 3. Identify the true corporate ownership behind the counter. Take 30 seconds to find out if the food chain you are patronizing is still controlled by its founding family, an independent regional franchise association, or a massive, multi-billion-dollar private equity firm like Roark Capital. When a private equity conglomerate buys a legacy food brand, their primary objective is to squeeze out franchise royalties, cut operational overhead, and load up the company with debt to engineer massive short-term returns for their investment partners. When you buy a sandwich from a debt-ridden corporate asset, you are not paying for better ingredients. You are literally funding an investor's dividend payout. Rule number 4. Reward operational consistency over historical nostalgia. Ignore your childhood memories of what a specific fast food brand used to be, and completely disregard their glossy, high-budget television commercials. Judge the physical meal that is sitting directly in front of you today based on what it actually is. If a chain consistently hands you a lukewarm, sloppy product after an agonizing 12-minute wait in a decaying, understaffed store, stop making excuses for them. The chain that respects its customers will demonstrate that respect by maintaining spotless facilities, fast service, and identical food quality every single time you pull up to the window. Rule number 5. Treat the corporate mobile app as the only honest price tag left. If you absolutely must eat at a bottom-tier price offender like McDonald's, never buy anything directly off the standard menu board at full price. The mega chains have systematically structured their pricing models to punish the casual, drive-up customer while reserving baseline, inflation-adjusted value exclusively for users who surrender their personal data to a smartphone application. If you aren't using a digital coupon or a tracking deal at a major corporate chain, you are actively being overcharged to subsidize the system. When you boil this entire investigation down to its core principle, the lesson is profoundly simple. Stop allowing clever marketing campaigns to dictate your financial choices. The decline of the American fast food landscape was engineered by boardrooms that bet on your passive compliance. They assumed that you would blindly keep paying more money for smaller, worse meals out of pure habit. But every single time you bypass a failing, debt-burdened mega chain and hand your cash to an operator that actively protects the integrity of their ingredients and the dignity of their workforce, you are shifting the incentives of the entire market. You are voting for real food, real value, and real respect. Thank you so much for investing your time into this deep dive. You are no longer a passive consumer being optimized by a spreadsheet. You are an informed buyer who knows exactly how the gears of the food industry turn. Please take a second to share this investigation with a friend or family member who is constantly complaining about how expensive their lunch runs have become, because they deserve to understand the systemic forces that are altering their receipts. I want to see your voices in the comments section below. Which of these 13 brands is sitting in your local neighborhood right now, and which one are you officially ready to boycott after looking at the data? And if you want to see this exact same investigative lens applied to the hidden tricks, fake discounts, and systematic shrinkflation happening right now on the shelves of your local grocery store, make sure to click on our comprehensive expose into the dark secrets of supermarket private labels right here. Stop paying premium prices for financial instruments disguised as dinner. Vote with the $20 bill in your pocket and prove the corporate strategists completely wrong. Keep your standards high, keep your eyes open, and never settle for garbage.